Hello, in this video I'll show you how you can easily edit and transform your studio images and how you can transform and make the background better, remove distractions, do skin retouch and color grading, and this is going to be a very beautiful and insightful video. So in case you want to download the raw image to follow along with this tutorial, simply check the link in the video description to download this image to follow along with this tutorial. So after importing the image in Photoshop, as it is a raw file, it is going to automatically open up in Camera Raw, and here we want to do the lighting and contrast issues regarding this very image. So for this, I'll briefly take my highlights down and some of the whites just like this. Then I'll open up the shadows of this image because I feel like it was having more shadows, and take the blacks down to add or compensate for the over opened up shadows in the image just like this. Then I'll come and add contrast to the image and open up the exposure of this very image. So I'll take the highlights down even more and add some more contrast to the image around 8. I feel like about that is okay. You can say before, after, before, after. So after doing these simple basic adjustments to this image, I'll simply come and click on open to open the photo in Photoshop. So right now in Photoshop, the very first thing we want to do is first of all doing our skin retouching. So in order to do skin retouching, we are basically going to be using frequency separation as a skin retouching technique to retouch this very image. So how are we going to do that? We are basically going to come to the background layer and duplicate it twice by pressing Command J, or you can use Ctrl J, then double click to rename this to color, and double click on this name to name that to texture. So after renaming these two layers, come to the color layer, select it, turn off the textures, and simply come to filter, come to blur, come to Gaussian blur, and take the radius slider all the way down. So just click on the radius, take it down, click on the skin area that has more skin details, and simply move up the radius slider and stop at the point whereby those details in the skin are just starting to get lost or disappear. So at about 2.5, that is when I'm just starting to lose out on the details in the skin. I'll simply come and click OK. So come to the texture layer, turn it on, simply come to image, come to apply image. So the source is the name of the photo that we're going to edit, and layer, select color layer, channel is set to RGB, blending, select add, opacity 100%, the scale is 2, offset is 0, and simply turn on invert, and you'll see the image turn into gray. Just come and click OK, change the blend mode from normal to linear light, then select both layers, then press Command G, or you can simply drag these layers to the group icon to place them into a group. Then after this, you're just going to come and select the color layer, turn off the texture layer, simply come to the brushes, get the mixer brush tool, and for the settings for the mixer brush tool that we are going to be using in this case, ensure the hardness set to 0, soft round brush is selected, click down here and select clean brush, and select the second option, that is clean brush after each stroke. The weight is 9%, load is 75%, mix is 90%, flow is 100%. So after that, just make sure sample all layers is not turned on or is not checked. So after that, we just want to blend the skin tone transition. So how are we going to blend? Simply slightly zoom in and start brushing on the skin to blend the tones. So reduce on the size of the brush by using the square bracket keys on the keyboard, and start blending the midtones alone, the highlights alone, and the shadows alone to create a nice and smooth transition between the skin color. So we just want to blend the skin tones, and where these colors are transitioning from one color to another, just get a very small brush and you blend that transition to create a smooth and even transition between those colors. So I'll come and zoom in slightly and work on the face because the features on the face can't be seen from a distance. That is why I always have to zoom in for only the face, and for other areas I tend not to zoom in because other areas are wider and the features in the rest of the areas of the body are not small as it is for the face of the subject. So I'm just going to paint like that. So after painting on the face area, you can see blend the midtones alone, the highlights alone, and the shadows alone. So to increase or reduce on the size of the brush, you can use the open and close square bracket keys on the keyboard. So I'll simply zoom out by using Command minus, and continue blending. So you can see I'm going to blend this highlight alone and blend these other midtones alone like this. And by the way, you have to follow the shape of a given area or how the area you're working on is. So you can say hand is moving in this direction. I also have to move my brush following that given direction. So I'll blend like that. So reduce on the size and blend the hand like this. I hope you can see how the skin is turning out to look smooth. So take your time as you're trying to blend the transitions between your subject's skin tone. So I'll just blend like that. And as you're seeing, I'm not zooming all the way in. I am trying to retouch or to retouch the image or the photo at a distance. So when it comes to the legs, I'm just going to paint like that. You can see how this is going to be affecting the tones on the legs. And the legs are going to end up looking smoother than how they were initially. And by the way, you can as well work with this texture layer turned on. But the reason as to why I turn it off or I prefer to turn it off is because I don't want any kind of distraction from the textures in the image. I want to work on the colors alone without having any kind of distraction from the textures or the details in the image. So I'll blend like that. Like I said, take your time as you're trying to blend, and this is going to really take so much practice and patience for you to master and see well every single area that you want to work on. So the more you practice, the better or the quicker you'll see the areas you want to blend or work on in your image or in your photo. So right now I feel like this is okay. Just come back and turn on the texture layer. Like I said, when you turn on the texture layer and you feel like some areas are not blended quite well, you can even work with the texture layer turned on. And as you're doing this, make sure sample areas is not turned on or is not checked. So I'll blend like that. So for those areas that I can see that still have or contain uneven skin tone transitions, I'll just blend them even more. So right now that we are done blending the skin tone colors or transitions, you can come and select the texture layer, come and get the clone stamp tool, and for settings, basically the hardness is going to be set to 0. So after doing that, make sure the mode is normal, opacity and the flat 100%, align is checked, and the sample is set to current layer. So just zoom in because right now we just want to remove blemishes that are part of the currently selected layer, which is the texture layer. So to remove a blemish, you simply hold down the option key on the keyboard, option, click on a clean area near the pimple or the blemish, alternate for Windows option, and click on a clean area near the blemish, and make sure the size of the clone stamp tool is slightly bigger than the pimple or the blemish that you want to remove. Option, click and release the option key after clicking, and click once again to cover or remove the blemish. So that is how you can use the clone stamp tool to remove any kinds of blemishes from your model's skin. So I'm just going to do this quick and try to eliminate these tiny imperfections or pimples from the model's skin. So I'll just remove all these like this. So I'm just going to come to the lower part of the body and look for or identify all these imperfections or skin unwanted areas on the skin like blemishes. So take your time. That's why you have to zoom all the way in to see or identify every single area that has uneven skin tone transitions or the blemishes in your photo or in your image. So command minus to zoom out. Now that we are done working on the skin and doing the skin retouching, you can see before, after. The skin now looks smooth. So it is time to color grade the skin tone and get even skin color. So how are we going to do this? Simply create a stamp visible layer by pressing Shift Option Command E, Shift Alternate Control E on the keyboard. Create a stamp visible layer. Then simply come to select and come to subject so that we can select the edges of the subject. And Photoshop is going to do a pretty nice job trying to help us to select the edges of the subject. and sometimes it may miss out particular areas, but don't mind about that. Ensure it has selected majority of the areas that have skin, and you can get the quick selection tool and refine the selection in case it has missed out some areas. So to add the selection, make sure the add icon is selected, and you can add the given selection. Then subtract a selection, simply get the -1 and click on an area to subtract or remove a selection from a given area. So after refining your selection, you're just going to come and we start painting, or we work on the skin tone. So just come and create a new empty layer and change its blend mode from normal, change it all the way down to color. Come to the brushes and get the brush tool. Ensure for the settings, soften brush is selected. The mode is set to normal, opacity and the flat 100%. So just want to sample a color on the model skin that would like the rest of her skin to look like. So to sample a given color, hold down, look for that color, identify where it is, hold down the option key on the keyboard and click on that color option and click on that color. And after clicking or selecting that color, you can come and start painting that color over the model skin. So I'm just going to paint that color. So I've sampled close to the nose area. So sometimes or most of the time, the nose is going to be a good area to, or the face area rather, is going to be a good place to sample color in case you want to a color that is going to be painted over the rest of your subject's body, because sometimes ladies do makeup. So sometimes you want to match the face to the rest of the body, because most of the areas on the body may not be having makeup or the color that is going to differentiate it from the face. So I'm just going to continue painting, and the reason that's why we selected the subject is because we don't want our color to spill over to the background. We only want to limit the color onto the model alone. We don't want the color to spill over to the background of the image. That is why we had to make a selection of the subject. So for a smaller area, ensure to zoom in. Don't be afraid to zoom in. You have to zoom all the way in and use a very small brush to paint like that. So you can see how easy it is. So sometimes the skin tone may look unnatural, and later on we have to come back and we fine tune the skin color so that it can look a little bit better and natural. So I'm just going to paint like that. You can see for the legs we are almost there. So I'm just going to reduce on the size of our brush and paint on her toes just like that. And don't forget these toes too. So that's the advantage of zooming all the way in. Then you're going to come and we paint on the hand area in this case just like this. So ensure that you paint each area that has uneven skin tones. So I've painted majority of these areas. Like I said, you have to be really careful in some areas in case those areas are very small and tiny for you to see well. So just going to come back to the hand in this area and also this second hand. So ensure that you paint on every area that has these skin tones or skin. So right now this is what we are going to be achieving. So you can see that this is better, and in case you don't have Capture One, you can use this kind of technique and you do it, I'll call it the hard way. So I'm just going to do this for the rest of her skin. So after painting and ensuring that I've painted every area that has skin tones, I'll just come and get the eraser tool and make sure the mode is set to brush, opacity and the flat 100%. I'll simply zoom in and fine tune areas whereby my color had spilled over to her dress or to some areas. So I'm just going to get the eraser tool and paint in those areas to rub away or erase the color from those particular areas. So for areas where you missed out, simply press B and select the brush. That is the shortcut for the brush tool. And E is going to be for the eraser tool. So press E for the eraser tool, B for the brush, and paint over her dress in that area to get back the original color. So I just come to her shoe strap like that and also eliminate it from her shoe strap before the brush and paint color in this area that we had initially missed. So take your time. Good photos really take time. That is why I have to show you every step and show you that. Command D to deselect in case you want to deselect and you're done painting. So I'm just going to come to the face area and ensure that I've not made errors. You can see that I'm going to get my eraser tool and erase color from her lipstick. Like I said, you shouldn't tamper with the makeup before the brush and paint on those areas you feel were not painted. So you can get the eraser tool and erase the effect from her hair in this particular area. So by just doing this, you can see right now we have a very nice and even skin color. Just look at that. Let me show you the before and after. This was the before, after. Now the skin looks nice and uniform. So in case the skin is not okay for your liking, just come and create a hue and saturation adjustment layer. Then come and target the reds, and you can play around with the hue of the reds just like this, so that the skin can look natural for you. So I'll just add a tiny bit of greens to the skin tone. And in case it's too yellow, come the lightness and take down the lightness of the reds just like that. And that is going to make the image even look better. So this is what we have been able to achieve. So in case you're not comfortable with the results, you can even brighten her legs in case they look darker. So to do that, simply create another stamp visible layer. Shift or Option Command E, Shift Alternate Control E. Get the quick selection tool and select. You click on the legs to select the legs. So in case you want to slightly brighten the legs, just come and add more of the selection of her legs just like that. Click to add or to select a given area, but ensure that it is on the plus icon. So to subtract a selection, use the -1. So just come, brightness and contrast, brighten up the legs just like that, and you can even take down the contrast to slightly brighten up her legs. So after this, you can even come back to this and you select other areas that you want to perfect or brighten up. So I'm just going to slightly brighten up her face in this case. So I'm just going to come to brightness and contrast once again and take down the contrast and slightly brighten up her face. I feel like that is okay. So in case for the color grading of the skin tone it is intense, ensure to come back to the color grading layer of the skin tone, and you can reduce on the opacity to your taste or to your liking. So after doing this, let's do a little bit of eye whitening by coming and creating a hue and saturation adjustment layer, and take down the saturation to around -78. Press Command I on the keyboard to invert the effect. Get the brush tool, ensure black and white is showing right here. So to reset, press D on the keyboard, or you can reset by clicking on the tiny swatches, and you can now zoom in like this by using Command plus on the keyboard and zoom all the way in onto the face, and simply paint using white over the eyes just like that to whiten the eyes of our subject. So right now we are done working on the skin, and this is okay. So after you have done this, in case you want to play around with the color on the skin area, and in case it is too reddish and you want to slightly desaturate it, you know what to do. You can come back to this layer that we had for our hue and saturation and double click on the icon, and you come right here to master, come back the reds, and you play around with the hue value of the red. So you can either add more of this, and in case there is no effect, just create another hue and saturation like this. Hue and saturation, come to the reds, and you play around with the hue value of the reds or the saturation. So I feel like it is okay the way it is, so I won't tamper with it. And in case it is too yellow, come to the lightness of the reds and reduce on the lightness of the reds, just like this. That is going to make the image look better. So after this, to add skin glow or skin shine, before we can proceed to the background, just come and create the curves adjustment layer, and click on this right hand pointer, drag it towards the left hand side up to when the highlights on the skin are getting overexposed. Then right click on the curves layer, come to blending options. So just come to blending options and blend if, make sure it is set to gray. Come to underlying layer, move the effect from affecting the rest of the image, and stop at the point whereby only the highlights are showing in the image or affected. Then simply hold down the option key on the keyboard and click on the right hand pointer for the effect to blend well into the skin. Then with this layer mask selected, press Command I, or you can use Control I, and just get the brush tool, white as the top color, and just paint over the bright areas on the model's skin. And this is going to create skin glow or skin shine and make the image somehow better. So just come and reduce on the opacity in case the effect is too much. So now we are done working on the skin, doing the skin retouching and color grading. Let's now proceed to working and trying to fix our background. So in order to fix the background, we are going to create a stamp visible layer by pressing Shift Option Command E, Shift Alternate Control E on the keyboard, and create a stamp visible layer. Once you have created it, just come and get the spot healing brush tool. The mode is set to normal content where I selected, and simply click over this soft box in this area to remove it. So whichever distraction you have in the image, just get the spot healing brush tool and click over it. So in order to even smoothen the background even more, you're just going to come and make a selection of the background. So just come and select the subject. Like I said, once you have selected the subject, Photoshop is going to help you select the subject. So in order to add this as part of the selection, come and get the quick selection tool and simply click over the prop that she's seated on, so you can add more of the selection. So after that, remember we only want to select the background, so just come to select and you come to inverse so that we can select the inverse in this case. Once we have selected the inverse, we can now come and first of all get the normal brush tool, opacity at 100%, flow at about 63%, hit enter or return. Then we just want to sample and paint color over the background to remove these folds and unmatching colors. So to do this, hold down the option key on the keyboard, option to sample a color that you prefer in that or near that area, option, click and start painting, or brush, option, and brush over those areas that you want to get rid of in the image, like that. So you can use this technique to paint over the wrinkles or folds in the image to try to eliminate them from your image. So I'm just going to sample and paint over those areas, in that area rather. So take your time as you're trying to create this kind of seamless look for your studio backdrop or background. So I'm just going to try to get rid of this overblown out area. So I'm just going to paint a slightly brighter color, sample and paint like that. So you can see by just doing these tiny things, we are now getting to have a seamless kind of background or backdrop for this very image. So I'm just going to come to the lower part. So in order to make the effect look better, just come and get the mixer brush tool to remove all these unwanted areas. So with the same settings that we had for the frequency separation, select clean brush in case the brush is carrying color, and start painting to blend the colors that we have just been painting over and create this kind of smooth. But as you're using the mixer brush to blend the tones, ensure that you don't paint close to our model or our subject, because sometimes it may cause a little bit of fringing in some specific areas of the image. So to remove this dirty area, just paint in the opposite direction, but ensure as you're doing this, you don't get rid of the original shadows that were existing within our photo or within our image, because it is going to make it seem like the model was seated in air and she's somehow floating. So ensure that you paint like that, so you can see how nice it is when it comes to creating this beautiful and seamless kind of backdrop for your studio images or for your studio photos. So just take your time and paint. So I just want to show you how it is done. So right now we have created a seamless background. You can say before, after, before, after. So press Command D, or you can use Control D to deselect the active selection. And after doing that, you can now come and get the spot healing brush tool and try to remove these dirty areas from the prop that she's seated on. Just click using the spot healing brush and try to clean up all these dirty areas. Like I said at the start of the video, good photos really take time. So that is why we are taking a lot of time on this very image. So this is what we have so far. So we're going to proceed to make the background even better by simply coming to this very image and duplicate this layer by pressing Command J. So just want to add a Snoot effect and make the background even more beautiful. So after creating that, you're just going to come and select the subject. Just come to select, and once again select the subject. I don't know how many times I've mentioned select subject in this tutorial. Come to the quick selection tool and add this to part of the selection, and ensure that you zoom all the way in to see those areas that may not have been added into the selection, especially the glass. So just ensure that you add the glass into the selection, especially the brightest areas of the glass. So once you have made a selection and it is perfect, you're just going to come and we make our studio background to look even more lively. So just take your time trying to select. You know, glasses are really hard when it comes to making selection of when it comes to Photoshop. So hold down the Option key on the keyboard and deselect or remove this lower part of the glass from the selection. So I'm just going to leave it the way it is, and I don't want the tutorial to be this long. So and Option and subtract that selection. So hold down Option to activate the minus option. So after this, after selecting the subject and we are comfortable with that, it is time to add our Snoot effect. So make sure you first of all copy the background or copy the image. So in order to copy the image, press Command C, then press Command V to paste our subject onto a brand new layer. Yeah, Command C to copy, or you can use Control C, then Control V to paste our subject onto a brand new background. Then come and select this image or layer for copy, or this layer that we have in this case. After that, simply come to our Snoot effect, and by the way, you can download the Snoot also in the description. So just check for the link of the Snoot effect in the video description to download this effect. So for this, just choose any kind of effect that you want or prefer for this very tutorial. So I'm just going to come and get the rectangular marquee tool and choose any effect that I want to use for this kind of video. So I'm just going to try and use this very one. So click and drag down, and you make a selection over that. I'm just going to choose another one. So I'll just choose, let me try to choose this one. You can zoom in case you want to be accurate. So ensure that you only choose on the black edges and stop at where the black edges are stopping. Then press Command C, Control C to copy. Then come to this image. Ensure that this layer below the subject layer is selected. Then press Command V, or you can use Ctrl V to place our background. So we have now placed our Snoot effect, and after that just come to the Snoot layer and simply select or convert it to a smart object, because we want to be able to change the values later on. Then after that, simply come and change the blend mode from normal to screen. And after changing the blend mode, you are simply going to come and press, with this layer selected, press Command T, or you can use Ctrl T, and you can hold down Option and move the corners of this just like this. So just like that. So you can place it wherever you want in this case. So I feel like this is okay. And simply hit enter or return to place the Snoot effect right there. Come to filter, blur, come to Gaussian blur, and you can fade the effect just like that. You can move the blur so that you can fade the effect even better for it to look natural and realistic. I feel like that is okay. Click OK right there. So in order to add color to the background or to the effect, you can simply come and create a hue and saturation adjustment layer. Then scroll down and make sure you click on this clipping mask icon, so the effect can only affect the Snoot effect or the layer below. Then come and click on colorize, and after that you can now come and change the hue value of the Snoot to your taste or to your liking. So I'm just going to go with this, and you can play around with the saturation values of the Snoot effect in the image, or you can even play around with, I don't recommend you to play with the lightness because it may bring up the initial effect. So I'm just going to leave it. So I'm just going to choose a very vibrant effect. I feel like this looks beautiful, and you can play around with the saturation values. So in case you're not happy with this, you can choose any Snoot effect that you want or prefer. So this is what we have been able to achieve in this tutorial. So in case you want to change the blur radius, click on the blur effect and you can intensify it to your taste or to your liking. So I feel like around 10 looks okay. Click OK. So this is what we have been able to achieve. So in order to save the image, simply come to File, Export, come to Export As, and it is going to open up the Export As window right here in Photoshop. Ensure the format is set to JPEG, quality to the maximum because we want a very detailed image, and scroll down to Resample, make sure it is set to Bicubic Sharper, and simply come to Convert to sRGB, make sure it is checked, and Embed Color Profile is also checked, and click on Export in order to save the image in whatever location that we want. Click on Save. So this is how you can edit your studio images in Photoshop from the start to the very end. I hope you have enjoyed this video. Don't forget to keep practicing and as well keep creating.